Hey guys, hello and welcome to the live stream. I am a little, I started preparing a little late, so all things are not in place. So sorry about that. But yeah, thank you for joining again. And it's a Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022 is already 1 month old. And here we are talking about random stuff. Already, I see some people in the chat. Hello, Sundarji. Hello, Vikas. Hello, Hemant. We'll get to questions, but before that, I want to tell you about what is going to happen on this live stream this Saturday and then the Wednesday following. This Saturday we are going to have. I remember a lot of you were asking about reincarnation in the live chat, about how hypnotherapy sometimes exposes past life experiences of people. So this next live stream on Saturday, I'm going to have Nakul Shenoy as my guest. He's a professional magician and a hypnotist, and he can throw light on hypnotism, and he can tell us what hypnotism can do and what it cannot do. So if you're interested in evidence so-called for reincarnation and rebirth, and you think that past life regression therapy is a thing that can be taken seriously, then you would definitely want to attend that live stream. The Wednesday after that, 7 days from now, अगले हफ्ते इस दिन वाला live stream रात के 10 बजे will be with cartoonist Sumit Kumar. Sumit Kumar, if you remember, was a participant in the TV show Shark Tank recently. He runs the comic studio Buckermax, web comic studio Buckermax, and he's someone who has been long subscriber of the view that books are dead. So from the even perhaps the earliest part of his career, he embraced the truth that books are not going to do it, the web is the future. So we're going to talk to him about being an artist, being a businessman as an artist, and his experiences at Shark Tank, and what all he learned from it, and what all he can share with us from what he learned there. So that's what's going to happen in the next live stream and the live stream after that. Today's topic was going to be atheism and the social responsibility of atheists, because as I have mentioned before, we do run into people who are atheists, but who are only atheists because it's fun to be an atheist, and they don't actually want to criticize the dominant strain of religiosity in their country, which in our country, obviously in India, it's Hinduism. So we're going to talk about that. So if you have views about that, please feel free to leave them in the chat. I will myself talk about some stuff, and we'll take it from there. Let's look at the comments. Heyman says, please briefly tell me about the broad principles of Buddhism and its scientific and unscientific as- aspects, I think you meant, and also your views about Vipassana. Vipassana is something that a lot of people have benefited from. A lot of people that I know have said that they benefited from it, and some people said that it did not really actually help them. So I'm a little suspicious about spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual practices that claim to be of help to everyone, and that's usually not the case. Even meditation is not help to everyone. Even when a practice is good and demonstrably so, it is not for everyone. So that's my view on Vipassana. As far as Buddhism is concerned, I cannot possibly encapsulate an entire religion's principles in the course of one answer. Its scientific and unscientific aspects, I don't know. There are Hindus who think their religion is very scientific. Similarly, there are Buddhists who think that there is nothing unscientific about the religion. If any religion believes in anything supernatural, then that's something I have to criticize as an atheist. I have to oppose as an atheist. Many Buddhists think that karma is a thing and that reincarnation is a thing. Some Buddhists think, like there is a prominent YouTuber called Science Journey. He thinks that that's all later day additions to Buddhism and it's all bakwas. So there you go. Kaushal says, hello. Vikas says, sir, आज कुछ questions हैं. हाँ, Vikas, पूछो ना. Shayan says, hey, Vamo, how you doing? I'm good, Shayan. Thank you for asking. Heyman says, whether acupressure is science or pseudoscience. There is no, okay, so a lot depends on what use you are putting it to. Sometimes things which have no scientific basis whatsoever act as the placebo effect. A person who truly believes that acupressure is going to help them is going to benefit from it because they themselves create that effect. So I don't think that acupressure is uh, massage helps. I guess if you rub your fingers on your body at some point of time, you are bound to hit something useful, but beyond that, I'm not an expert in acupressure. However, I have also not heard anyone say that it is based on scientific principles. Sai Deepak says, "Hi, must tell you that the music in the beginning makes me feel nostalgic." Haan, Sai Deepak, thank you. I actually go through a lot of YouTube channels and their intro music is like, "Dhan, dhan, 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 dhan." Like, मतलब अभी भी ब्रेकिंग न्यूज़ आ रहा है. So I did not want to do that with the live stream. 1 घंटे तक चलता है, लोग बैठ के देखते हैं. I want people to chill out. I want people to sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and listen like a podcast. So I want to create an atmosphere like old Doordarshan feels wala. That's what I was going for, and that's why the music is that way. Kaushal says, just waiting for that one person who shows up in the last 10 minutes to argue about how God. अबे आज आज कोई आया था इस चैनल के एक पुराने वीडियो पे कमेंट किया, लंबा चौड़ा कमेंट किया। कोई तो मतलब फिलोसॉफिकल आर्गुमेंट था, उसका पहला प्रेमिस बकवास था, दूसरा प्रेमिस बकवास था और दोनों प्रेमिस से जो कंक्लूजन निकल रहा था वो भी उन दोनों से फॉलो नहीं करता था। बट आई एम प्रीटी श्योर समबडी विल टर्न अप इन द लास्ट मतलब एंड देयर आर इवन पीपल हू कम अप इन द लास्ट 2 मिनट्स, दे विल आस्क अ क्वेश्चन एंड यू विल से दैट अच्छा तो आज का टाइम हो गया मैं लाइव स्ट्रीम बंद करता हूँ। दे हाँ, हाँ, मुझसे भाग गया। अबे मैं तुम्हारे लिए 4 घंटे चलाऊँगा क्या लाइव स्ट्रीम? Samarth says, hello. Hi, Samarth. Sundarji says, we become left leaned if we talk about social responsibility. Right wing don't think about social responsibility of any kind. Yeah, yeah. Right. Since right wing thought in India is based on uh, kind of Hindutva thinking about the world, uh, and it also borrows a lot from right wing thinking elsewhere in the world. Because this thing about how poor people are poor because they don't work hard, and rich people are rich because not because their daddy left them a lot of money, but because they work hard. This is also something we are going to talk about in the Shark Tank episode next Wednesday. That's why. Samat says, I missed my class today because I got up late, so I'm here on time. Ah, okay. Okay. जल्दी टाइम पे उठा करो पढ़ाई पे पढ़ाई में ऐसे मत करो. Benjamin says, are we supposed to preach atheism? What should we do? No, I don't think anyone is supposed to preach anything. There is no supposed to in atheism. As an atheist, I myself think I'm a vocal person regardless of what my viewpoint is. I tell it to people. I at least put it out, but I never tell people that they should be a certain way, except when they're actually being monstrous. Like if someone is burning someone's house, you should say you should not burn the house. There is a should associated there. But in most cases, I don't preach. I tell people what I think, and if someone agrees with me, wonderful. विकास है सर, साइंस जर्नी चैनल आपको सच में साइंटिफिक लगता है या कहीं ना कहीं वो बुद्धिज्म को राइट कहता है? वो बुद्धिस्ट है और वो बुद्धिज्म को सपोर्ट भी करता है। बट इफ यू आस्क हिम अबाउट अरे वो बुद्धिस्ट ने वो किया, अरे वो बुद्धिस्ट ने वो किया, ही विल ऑनेस्टली से वो लोग झूठ, वो लोग ये सब गलत है। व्हिच इज़ नॉट समथिंग यू फाइंड इन पीपल फ्रॉम अ लॉट ऑफ रिलिजन्स। दे विल लाइक इफ समवन इज फ्रॉम द रिलिजन एंड यू पॉइंट आउट अ मिस्टेक, दे विल डिफेंड इट. Like people often in the course of conversations with atheists, they bring up stuff like, they'll bring up stuff like, अच्छा तुम रिलीजियस वायलेंस का ओपोज करते हो, तो स्टालिन का क्या और इसका क्या और उसका क्या? मेरा पॉइंट है, श्योर a lot of people who are atheist have been bad, but a they have not been bad because of their atheism, and b if you ask any atheist today if they were bad, they will say yeah they were bad and they should not be followed. But religions के साथ ऐसा नहीं होता. If you point out the mistakes in any religion, religious people cannot say that that is wrong, because religions often are based on the foundation of absolute certain moral perfection. So if you say तुम्हारे religion में गलत लिखा है, वो ये नहीं बोलेंगे नहीं ये गलत लिखा है. कुछ लोग बोलते हैं पर ज़्यादातर लोग नहीं बोलते हैं. They will find some way of justifying it. That's why. मुझे साइंस जर्नी अच्छा इसलिए लगता है क्योंकि उसके धर्म के बारे में भी कुछ गलत चीज़ बोलोगे ना, वो बोलेगा नहीं ये लोग गलत कर रहे हैं, ये नहीं होना चाहिए. शाश्वत says, isn't there any Muslim right party in India? How to differentiate Muslim right and left? What is this obsession? Someone came last time also, and what is this obsession with declaring Muslim political parties right wing? Like, is the Indian right wing now ashamed of calling it right wing and therefore they want Muslims to be included there? Right wing means those who support royalty, those who support the families which have ruled before democracy came. And our right wing is actually not a right wing in the strictest sense of the term, but they are right wingers because they stand in support of the uh, religious traditions, so called, of this country. What is commonly accepted to be our religious tradition, they're supporters of that. That is why they're the religious right wing. Muslims by themselves have never formed a power bloc big enough to be considered either left or right. they're usually allied with the left because the left stands for the rights of minorities and marginalized communities. So मुस्लिम राइट विंग एक इस्लामिक देश में हो सकता है, पर इंडिया में नहीं हो सकता। ये मुस्लिम राइट प कहाँ का लॉजिक है? हर हफ्ते कोई आके ये क्यों बोल रहा है? इज़ दिस लाइक अ न्यू टॉकिंग पॉइंट इन अमंग देम? Hemant says, "Do you know about Amit Verma?" Yes, Amit Verma, the podcaster from The Seen and the Unseen. What about him? Hemant says, "You could be a perfect guest for Seen and the Unseen." अरे नहीं यार, वहाँ पे मतलब the caliber of the guests he invites is like way above mine. Way above mine. Shayan says, "Don't preach atheism, preach rationality and scientific methods, which we know work." Yes. Shashwat says, "There is no difference between science journey and Hindu atheist." No, there is a huge difference. You go to any Hindu atheist and you ask them about do they criticize their own religion? No, they won't. Science Journey does say that if Buddhists are doing bunkum stuff, then they are wrong. There is a huge difference. Sagar says conservative progressive is a better framework for India, in my opinion. Conservative, yeah, I guess. But semantics, hai? But yeah, I agree with you. Miles says, hello, hi Miles. Shashwa says, isn't AIMIM a Muslim right wing? No, they are not. I just explained to you the difference. Sundarji says, technically, we can't preach atheism. Imagine a child born in an environment where nobody taught the child about God in the 21st century. The child never got the concept of God, so atheism is natural. I don't think that will be the case. See, the child may not be born religious, but the child will be exposed to fiction, to to imaginative literature, and you will notice that children, even at the young age, imagine things that did not happen. So that is a very fundamental human quality. If you don't tell the child about any religion, the child will probably not come to the conclusion that Allah exists or Vishnu exists or Brahma exists or Jesus exists, but they will still have a strain of imaginative outlook. They will still have an imaginative outlook towards reality. Superstitions are born like that in the human mind. If a human being sees a tree on the way to work, and every time they see the tree they meet with an accident, their mind will instantly form a kind of causal relationship between the two. I spoke about this in the last episode and in a reel also about agent detection. So yeah, even if you don't tell the child about any religion, they will develop some supernatural beliefs. However, if they're personal supernatural beliefs, you can reason them out of it. Organized religion turns these supernatural belief into concrete, ways of life, and then it becomes really difficult to pull people out of it. Samarth says right wing in India is communal and it essentially has to be Hindu right wing because minorities are never in power. Yes, and also right wing everywhere is communal. Look at the like Tea Party Republicans in America, extremely communal. Miles says, hello, sir. बहुत दिन बाद आया मैं. Shaila says, hello, everyone. Kaushal says, maybe right wing hopes that by calling conservative Muslims as right wing Muslims, they can expose left wingers as a. Yeah, मुझे भी वही लग रहा है. ये कोई नया फंडा निकाला है out of their ass and it doesn't fit on the real. It doesn't fit reality in any way because Indian left stand with conservative Muslims sometimes. Yes. Param says, in India, Islam is in minority, but globally, it is a major religion. So, should Indian atheists criticize Islam too? If you're Indian atheist, your actions are most probably not going to affect people in America, right? Your actions are going to have immediate effects on the people who you live with. And those are being affected by a strain of religiosity which is largely not Islamic. It is Hindu. मतलब ये एक्सक्यूज़ है कि मुझे इस्लाम को क्रिटिसाइज़ करना है इसलिए मैं एथिस्ट करके अमेरिकन एथिस्ट का एजेंडा फ़ॉलो करूँगा, पाकिस्तानी एथिस्ट का एजेंडा फ़ॉलो करूँगा, मैं सब कुछ करूँगा पर इंडिया के मेन रिलिजन को कभी क्रिटिसाइज़ नहीं करूँगा। You have to ask yourself if you are an atheist and you think Islam should be criticized mainly whether you are doing it out of fondness for your own religion. Because if you are, you really need to examine your own beliefs. Uh, Kshitij says, hey Vimo, off topic, but thanks for being an actual leftist YouTuber rather than another neoliberal. Cough, Dhruvrati cough. Shayan says, actually, you should go back and watch the episode that we recorded with Haris Sultan, the Pakistani Mulhid person. And he said that he has spoken to Dhruvrati and he thinks that Dhruvrati is not a Hindu nationalist. But I don't blame him for actually, like, see, this is a complication that only Indians can truly absorb. Because being a neoliberal so-called progressive who still thinks that feminism is problematic is that's Dhruv Rathi. And there are other things also but we don't need to go into because largely speaking he is not a Hindu nationalist and if you're criticizing religion By the way, Dhruvarati even calls himself a Hindu atheist. So there. Shayan says, anytime there is a gap of knowledge, human nature is to try to fill that gap. As educated and rational minds, we need to learn to be comfortable with I don't know. Yes, and that's also the foundation of science, by the way. If you, only by saying I don't know, will you try to know. If you have already decided that you know, you will not even try. And there goes exploration and science and invention and everything else. Gunduchi says, if history was different and atheism was the norm, we would have had atheist superstitions. See, atheism, as far as its narrow definition goes, is lack of belief in God. Already, we have plenty of atheists who have supernatural beliefs, and a large part of the work that secular activists do is to separate the wheat from the chaff. Like someone will come and say, "I'm an atheist," and then you ask them, "Do you believe in karma?" Yeah, yeah, I do. I believe in I believe in a higher power. I don't believe in God. All they have done is they replace the word God with a higher power. So they're not atheists. And this problem is pretty, uh, what's the word? It's pretty common in India. I took a minute, and the only word I could come up with was common. But yeah, that happens. Atheistic superstitions are not a thing, but atheists who are superstitious definitely already exist. Sundarji says right wing everywhere is the same. They are a carbon copy. Well, there are some differences, but yeah, they're synthetic. Sagar says an atheist friend of mine says he wants to bring up his kid with religion till a certain age to make sure he has some base values compliance. I think this can go wrong, but thought it's curious. Yeah, so this atheist friend of yours is mistaking religions for a source of morality, and that's not correct. We have done videos about this. I don't need to go into this all over again. But if your friend wants to expose his child to religion, tell them to possibly try to expose their child to every religion possible, not to one religion, because then they will just be turning them religious at an age when the child doesn't know how to think any better, think any differently. Vikas says Zakir Naik says his religion one and only logical scientific book, but then says that the Quran is sent by Allah from sky. Yeah, he's a medical doctor. Miles Davis says, yeah, Indian communal Muslims have no option other than the left, and this starts pseudo secularism of extremist Muslims. I would be hesitant to use phrases like pseudo secularism because this phrase was invented by L.K. Advani and it has been used over and over and over again to demonize Muslims. So please be careful about that term. कौशल says yes Vimo is Indian bread tube. हाँ मैंने एक बार bread tube अपने आप को बोला था but there was some person in the comments who got really angry. I don't know why. I still don't understand many details of this terminology, but yeah, just treat me as someone you like. You join the live stream and you talk to me, man. और कुछ बोलने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Shayan says, but how do we change the collective mindset? Because it seems like we are going backwards in terms of scientific literature. Scientific literature or scientific literacy? I think you meant literacy. Yeah, so I'm actually going to do a podcast about this also because you remember some time ago we had this high court judge from Rajasthan who said that peacocks reproduce by drinking, like the female drinks the male peacock's tears and then gets pregnant. So what actually happened there? You have to imagine what this person's daily life is like. Are they on an everyday basis? Most of the time, what are they talking about? Are they talking about science or are they talking about superstition? And if they are talking about superstition, then this person in a high judicial office is a risk to any case that requires scientific literacy. We have people in high places believing such ridiculous things about reality and nature because of their superstitious upbringing and their superstitious everyday life that it doesn't help. So what we need to do is to create an atmosphere on a in the media at least where science gets talked about a lot. Because I remember when I was a child, we had shows like Turning Point. Professor Narlikar had something called Brahmand. Professor Yashpal had Turning Point, and people used to write letters, science questions. ये कैसे होता है, वो कैसे होता है, ये कैसे बनता है, आसमान में वो चीज़ जो दिख रही है, वो क्या है और कहाँ से आई है, that sort of stuff. We don't have programs like that except on YouTube. So this kind of content needs to be encouraged. You ask yourself, तुम अपने दोस्तों को जो भेजते हो चीज़ें, उनमें से एक्चुअली साइंस चैनल से कितनी होती हैं और एक्चुअल बकवास कितनी होती है? Like, at least try to make real proper science 50% of the content. There are proper science websites. Science.org is one. Science, yeah, science.org is one. Subscribe to their email newsletter. They will send you a mail every day with latest scientific articles. Find something interesting and share it with a friend. That's how you create a culture of scientific literacy. नहीं तो हम लोग सबको टीवी पे एस्ट्रोलॉजी देखते रह जाएंगे और देश बर्बाद हो जाएगा. Shashwat says, if you Google the date of Vedas, almost all the information and historical website dates to 1200 to 1500 BC, but Science Journey says it dates back to after Christ. He talks about linguistic evidence. I think he talks about, like, for example, if you look in the Bhagavad Gita, the word Hindu is not there. But we are told that Hinduism is tens of thousands of years old, right? So he talks about, unless I look at the exact thing that you are referring to, I cannot comment on this. But largely, I think Science Journey's research is based on linguistic evidence. So he goes through a book and he takes a line and he says that this line refers to this thing, but this thing wasn't in India until this many years later. सो 1200 और 1500 बीसी में वो लोग ऐसी चीज़ों के बारे में कैसे लिख सकते थे, जो इंडिया में आफ्टर क्राइस्ट तक आई नहीं थी, राइट? सो दैट्स आल्सो अ लेजिटिमेट वे ऑफ डूइंग इन्वेस्टिगेशन. Historians do it all the time. Param says, no, sir, I think all religions in India should be criticized. All religions in India should be criticized, yes, but should they receive the brunt of your criticism equally? No. if a if you are living in a country where a political party is in power, it is making laws to demonize Muslims, it is making laws to actively discriminate against non-Hindus, and it is treating Hindus as if they are the sole benefactors of the civilization, then it is your duty to say that that is the bigger danger. अगर किसी का घर जल रहा है एक तरफ और दूसरी तरफ एक आदमी के पास, आई डोंट नो, आई एम लुकिंग फॉर समथिंग स्मॉल, एक तरफ एक बिल्डिंग जल रही है और दूसरी तरफ एक आदमी के पास छुट्टे नहीं है, और मैं बोलूंगा कि हमको घर की आग बुझानी चाहिए. तुम कहोगे नहीं, पर इस आदमी के पास छुट्टे नहीं है, दिस इज ऑल्सो इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट. इट्स नॉट इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट. श्योर, उस आदमी को छुट्टे दो, पर पहले घर की आग बुझाओ भाई. तुम्हारा देश में सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम क्या है, उसके ऊपर अटेंशन दो. Every problem is important, but not every problem is equally important. Some problems can wait. Some problems can wait until the atmosphere is better. Some problems can wait until the fire has been put out. So I don't appreciate people saying all things are equally important, क्योंकि ये वही कहते हैं जिनको एक प्रॉब्लम की अर्जेंसी पर ध्यान देने का मन ही नहीं है. अगर तुम ध्यान दोगे तो एक बड़ी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व होगी. बट अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल डोंट वांट टू क्रिटिसाइज, पुट आउट द फायर दैट इज बर्निंग द हाउस, बिकॉज दे आर बेनिफिटिंग फ्रॉम दैट फायर. अगर हम लोग अपर कास्ट हिंदू हैं, हमको अपने रिलीजन को क्रिटिसाइज करना अच्छा नहीं लगेगा, चाहे हम अपने आप को कितना भी एथिस्ट बोलें, है ना? इसीलिए हम नहीं करते, जबकि करना चाहिए. श्योर, इरेशनैलिटी हर रिलीजन में होती है, पर तुमको नहीं लगता कि ये मतलब हमारे रिलीजन का पावर इस समय देश में सबसे ज़्यादा है? पॉलिटिशियंस स्टेजेस पर खड़े होके साधुओं की मदद से हेट स्पीचेस दिलवा रहे हैं. तुमको नहीं लगता वो उसके बारे में बात करना पहले ज़रूरी है? तुमको लगता है कि एक ऐसा रिलीजन जिसके लोगों को ऑलरेडी डिमोनाइज़ किया जा रहा है, जिसके लोगों के खिलाफ कानून बनाए जा रहे हैं, जिसके लोगों को उठाकर जेल में ठूँसा जा रहा है, डिस्पाइट द फैक्ट दैट दे हैव एक्चुअली इन मेनी केसेस नॉट डन एनीथिंग. तुमको लगता है कि उनको क्रिटिसाइज़ करना उतना ही ज़रूरी है, जितना कि जो लोग पावर में हैं उनको क्रिटिसाइज़ करना ज़रूरी है? गेट अ सेंस ऑफ प्रोपोर्शन. मैं पर्सनली तुम पे नहीं चिल्ला रहा हूँ, मैं इस पॉइंट को थोड़ा सीरियसली लेता हूँ. सुंदर जी says, the moment I realized Zakir Naik is bullshitting, when I tried to explain the concept of word theory to a question from audience, try what? I want to realize Zakir Naik is question when you try to explain concept of word theory. है. थियरी के दो मतलब होते हैं, एक होता है जस्ट अ theory, the other is a scientific theory. Shit, में पानी ले रहा है, छोड़ो. The other is a scientific theory, and a scientific theory is not just a theory, it's a well established fact. Sudeep says, I know you have a conversation coming up with a comic person, but what are general thoughts on Shark Tank? It's reality TV. If you think that everything is hunky dory behind the scenes, then you are wrong. I've seen shows like this. I'll tell you my experience. There was a comic book studio in Bangalore, and I won't take the names of any organization or people, but they got on a show on TV of a similar variety, and their company also got kind of, they got investment and everything. But the only thing that happened as a result of it is that they got a boss. This person got stake in their company, eventually became majority stakeholder, and they were forced in a direction that they perhaps did not want to. I don't know what exactly happened, but right now that company no longer exists. The partners have gone, the company is gone, the company was purchased by a Japanese company, and all that. So it doesn't always work like that. It doesn't work like, ओहो मेरे पास एक आइडिया है, मैं आया, मैंने पैसे मांगे, आपने पैसे दिए, फिर मेरी कंपनी वर्ल्ड फेमस हो गई. जो लोग इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं वो अपना प्रॉफिट देखते हैं, और अगर उनको अपना प्रॉफिट नहीं मिलता, they don't give a flying fuck about your agenda, your goal, your ambition, your social cause, etc. उनको पैसा चाहिए. Don't be fooled by the nice background music and the smiling faces sitting in front of you. We will talk more about this with when Sumit comes on the show. Gunduchi says, I love how right wing politics has essentially boiled down to exploiting loopholes, vote bank politics, toxic nationalism, or like gerrymandering abroad. Yeah. It's fundamentally dishonest and undemocratic. So I told you, na, right wing is sympathizers of the royalty. So whenever a democratic party comes to power in any country, and I'm talking about a hypothetical country here, not about India, but when this happened in France, there were loyalists to the throne who became the right wing, and the people who are democratic and progressive became the left wing. And the right wing always tried to maintain the hegemony of the royal family, and that's what here is happening. Instead of the royal family, we have a religious tradition. That's all. Sailesh says, what if India was atheist majority? What if India was atheist majority? What you want me to like present? And I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that question. Jim King says Zakir Naik is a medical doctor who talks about everything but medical science. He's not a medical doctor. I don't believe it. The kind of bullshit that he spews, I don't believe he's a medical doctor. Cheyenne says an atheist might not believe in God, but they might believe that Santa exists, although highly unlikely. Point being, atheism means not believing the claim of God, period. Yes, but in the larger social context, atheism also means uh, a struggle against the general sense of irrationality in society. And because look at God, the idea of God is basically the biggest superstition. Okay? But if smaller superstition, what are you doing when you believe in God? You are ascribing qualities like consciousness, intelligence, etc. to the universe. But if you don't believe in God and you believe in karma or bhoot pret or chudail, you're essentially doing the same thing, that nature has supernatural properties. And that's just replacing the word God with a bunch of other things. Michael, yeah, sorry, yeah. Sundarji says Zakir Naik said, I mean, literally, he said word theory means not pro. Yeah, he's an idiot. After that, I stopped watching his video. YouTube, I used to give don't recommend. Yeah, I also do that. Kshitij says Kaushal mentioned BreadTube. There's an Indian version of Reddit called RotiTube. Small, but might want to link your content there. Also, people watching like the stream, 22 watching, but only 7 likes. हाँ लोगों जो भी देख रहे हो 25 लोग हैं अभी, सबके सब लाइक बटन प्लीज दबाओ ताकि ज्यादा लोगों को दिखे. No pressure though. If you don't like the stream, if you hate watching, then you should not feel any obligation to like the stream. And Reddit पे मैं थोड़ा कम ही जा पाता हूँ. So anyone who wants to share my streams or videos on any Reddit channel, feel free to do so. Rick says, have you watched Sam Harris versus Jordan Peterson? Epic debate. Jordan is same as Deepak Chopra. I have heard about it, and I think I have watched it a long time ago, but I don't remember anything about it because I watch a lot of debates. Miles says Dhruv Rathi is adoring his left fans and he doesn't want to lose his Hindu fans. So he came with fundas of Hinduism is not equal to Hindutva, and Hinduism allows to be an atheist. Yeah, that's a very old thing, and a lot of atheists unfortunately also believe it. और इस चीज़ को डिबंक करने का बेड़ा मैंने अभी उठा ही रखा है अपने यूट्यूब चैनल पे, दूसरे वाले पे, youtube.com/vimo, एंड विल सी. अजीत साहू, भाई तुम कौन से वाला अजीत साहू हो? अरे आज मैंने किसी भी कमेंट को स्क्रीन पे नहीं दिखाया, अभी दिखा रहा हूँ पहली बार. अच्छा, अरे यार सॉरी, किसी ने याद क्यों नहीं दिलाया? Vairu says, Shashwat Kumar, really mind sharing the link? Because in my opinion, it's called the Vedic period for a reason. Miles Davis says, at the end, Dhruv Rathi promotes secularism, so I like him. Yeah, so if like the fight is not between two sides, but if you break the fight down from the middle and there are two sides, if you force yourself to look at it as two sides, then Dhruv is on the right side. Shashwat says, why do most of the Indian atheists believe that Buddha fought against caste system? Buddhist scripture nowhere rejected caste system and proposed rebirth. So science journey will tell you that Buddhism does not propose rebirth. And a lot of people think that Buddhism rejects casteism because the Buddha clearly offered a path to a lot of people who did not have access to sacred literature because they were Hindus, and because of their caste, they did not have access to Brahmanical literature. The Buddha told them that you are all the same and that everyone can everyone can acquire what is described as enlightenment. And if you want to know more about Buddha, you can read Dr. Ambedkar's book on the Buddha, What the Buddha Taught, I think it is called. Just Google it. How can I share link here? Rick says, which is your favorite podcast for critical thinking? I don't necessarily have a podcast for critical thinking. Listen to the Atheist Experience podcast or their YouTube show. There is also a podcast called Science Versus, which is a regular scientific education channel. By the way, we have to talk about Joe Rogan at some point. Maybe not today, but we have to. Sagar says, was Ramanand Sagar the end of scientific TV? No. When Ramayana was on TV and when Mahabharata was on TV, television also had science shows. They had nice, like, see, the problem with television is this. This will take a second. Before the age of Ekta Kapoor, Saas Bahu serials, we had Doordarshan, and the decisions about what shows should be made were made by filmmakers, intellectuals, etc. When TRP happened and many entertainment channels happened, they went to small towns and they started giving the people what they want. So that's the phrase, giving people what they want. And that's not always a good idea because people often don't know what they want, what they need. You can give people what they want, but you're not giving people what they need. What we need as a nation is very different from what we want. We want, reality TV, but what we need is science shows. So at some point, television has to reach the decision that decisions about programming cannot be made based on what people want. You are a smart person, you are an entertainment personality, you can design shows that are entertaining as well as educational. If you cater to the lowest common denominator, and I know this might be a controversial thing because I'm literally saying people's will does not matter, but I think entertainment may people's will should not matter. People will, if you ask people what they want, most of the time they will not be able to tell you what they need. They will tell you something that they already have seen. They will tell you, ओके मैंने वहाँ पे देखा था, कुछ तो हो रहा था। हमारे न्यूज़ टीवी का हाल भी वही है बाय द वे। The reason we have utter bullshit disguised as news coverage right now permeating the airwaves is because our news journalists, so-called anchors, they appear to be of the view that it is their job to give people entertainment. एंटरटेनमेंट का लॉजिक की वजह से जर्नलिज्म बर्बाद हो गया। मतलब पूरी तरह से नहीं, अभी भी होप है, बट हमारे जर्नलिज्म को जितना भी डैमेज हुआ है पिछले कुछ सालों में, वो इसीलिए हुआ है क्योंकि हमने एंटरटेनमेंट का लॉजिक लिया और उसको अप्लाई किया जर्नलिज्म पे। जर्नलिज्म इज अ पब्लिक गुड, उसके ऊपर एंटरटेनमेंट का लॉजिक नहीं लग सकता। अमेरिका में ने भी यही गलती की, इसीलिए एक रियलिटी टीवी स्टार को प्रेसिडेंट बना दिया और उसने आप 4-5 साल तक उनके देश को बर्बाद करके रख दिया। ऐसी इस हद तक ले आया कि जो चीज़ उनके इतिहास 200 साल के इतिहास में शायद पहली बार हुई कि उनके कैपिटल हिल पे रायट्स हुए और क्या है वो वर्ड? सेडिशन, एक्चुअली सेडिशन होने की कोशिश हुई। अगर तुम एंटरटेनमेंट के लॉजिक से हर चीज़ को देखोगे, तो तुम अपने आप को बर्बाद कर लोगे और हमारे टेलीविज़न के साथ वही हो रहा है। वी नीड पीपल हू मेक डिसिशंस अबाउट व्हाट पीपल शुड वॉच एंड आई एम नॉट एडवोकेटिंग अ सेंसर बोर्ड बाय द वे इन केस एनीवन जंप्स टू दैट कंक्लूजन. Sundarji says, please follow the case of religion conversion case in Madras High Court. The judge gave movie review in his judgment. I'm not joking. Literally quoted a movie scene in the judgment. Okay, I will. I don't know about this. Param says, what is the difference between Varna, Jati and caste? Varna is a Sanskrit word, caste is an English word, and Jati is a Hindi word. I know that I'm oversimplifying it, but for all practical purposes, there is no difference. I talked in my last, like a couple of weeks ago, I made an Instagram reel where I said I don't give a flying duck about what the details and the definition are. If you go out right now and ask someone what caste is, the definition they give you is the definition that works. I am a firm believer in the fact that concepts and their definitions should be decided on the basis of the most common usage right now. अगर मैं किसी को धर्म के बारे में बोलूँगा, वो हिंदू बोलेगा, मुसलमान बोलेगा, क्रिश्चियन बोलेगा। पर किसी को अगर इवेड करना हुआ सवाल, वो बोलेगा, "नहीं, नहीं, धर्म शब्द का वो मतलब नहीं होता। आज से 10,000 साल पहले धर्म का मतलब वो था।" मुझे फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता। मैं कॉमन डेफिनिशंस की बात कर रहा हूँ और कॉमन डेफिनिशन के अनुसार वर्ण, जाति, कास्ट एक ही चीज़ है। I can go into the details of it, but I don't need to. नॉर्मल लाइफ सिंपल डेफिनेशंस के बेसिस पे चलती है, और जिनको बहुत ज़्यादा इंटेलेक्चुअल गिरी करनी होती है, वो लोग थ्रेड्स निकालते रहते हैं उसके अंदर से। नहीं, नहीं, ये वो था, वो ये था। इस शब्द का अगर संधि विच्छेद किया जाएगा तो आमलेट बन जाएगा। Miles Davis says, Shashwat, our genius Baba Sahib wrote many books on how Buddha opposes caste system, and he doesn't promote rebirth. He suggested Nibbana, which is Nirvana, which is rebirth of a person after realizing truth in one life. So you can read Ambedkar's books about Buddha. He explains it in detail. Shashwat says, I'm talking about Vedas, not Gita. Gita came in post-Vedic era. Okay? So you are someone who believes in the Vedas but not in the Gita. Please clarify, because that will take the conversation in another direction. Kaushal says all religions in India should be criticized. This seems like a good moment to talk about power structures. Yes, I did already. I think that's what I wanted to open the episode with, but मुझे लगा बात ही कर लेता हूँ, बीच में बोल दूंगा. But yeah, all religions in India should be criticized, quote unquote, is an evasive statement, and it is only offered by people who don't want to criticize the main religion. Kshitij says, Miles, Dhruv Rathi is ignorant about actual leftist ideas and thinks socialism is a compromise between communism and capitalism. Vimo tweeted a great Hindi video a while back debunking him. हाँ, वो मुझे भेजा था मेरे एक दोस्त ने. अरे यार, वो कहाँ गया वो चैनल? सी द थिंग इज, मैं चैनल्स को सब्सक्राइब करता हूँ अपने मेन चैनल से, और इस चैनल से शायद मैंने उसको सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया, सो मुझे आई I'll have to re-log in and I can't do that right now, but I'll share the link once more if people want. Where you say शाश्वत यूट्यूब लिंक में वॉच वी के बाद वाला स्ट्रिंग कॉपी पेस्ट कर लो इफ यू गॉट द टाइम. दिव्यांश सेज, ब्रो गीता वेद कुरान बाइबल सब पढ़ लो, सब गलत ही है. Shashwat says, Miles, Ambedkar created mythical Buddha to find out Indian version of Marx in Indian history. Shashwat, if you are going to be critical of someone as far as their interpretation of religious text is concerned, you are not going to run out of material in your own religion. शायन सेज, वॉट अबाउटरी में लीन हो जाते हैं, अगर हिंदुइज्म के बारे में कुछ बोलो, मैंने तो मुंह बंद कर लिया है. मुंह बंद मत करो, मुंह खोलो, मतलब खुला मत रखो, मच्छर घुसेंगे, पर बोलो. अगर वो लोग वॉट अबाउटरी में लीन हो जाते हैं ना, तुमको एक चीज तो कम से कम करना चाहिए, और वो ये है कि पॉइंट आउट करना चाहिए कि तुम वॉट अबाउटरी कर रहे हो. डोंट लेट देम गेट अवे दैट इजीली. Miles says, Shashwat, you're wrong, bro. Shashwat says, Divyansh, include Buddha's teachings into it. Shayad says, you can go get water, we will wait. Actually, I'll play the ad and I'll come back in just a minute. ये कल्प फिक्शन का ad है. कल्प फिक्शन मेरा एक हिंदी पॉडकास्ट है. Please listen. Hold on. Please listen. I'll just come back with water. कल्प फिक्शन में स्वागत है आपका. ये एक अजीब दुनिया है, या शायद ये कहना बेहतर होगा कि ये कई अजीब दुनियाओं का रीमिक्स है. यहाँ राक्षस हैं, पर यहाँ रोबोट भी हैं. यहाँ स्पेस है, पर यहाँ जादू भी है. यहाँ आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस है, पर यहाँ देवता भी हैं. यहाँ वो सब कुछ है जिसकी कल्पना मानवों ने की है, और कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें भी जिनकी कल्पना ना की गई है और ना की जा सकती है. कल्प फिक्शन पर आपको सुनने को मिलेगी ओरिजिनल हिंदी कहानियाँ जो आई हैं दूर भविष्य से और प्राचीन अतीत से, और इन सब कहानियों का वास्ता होगा आपसे, यानी कि आज के इंसान से. एपिसोड्स को सुनने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें स्पॉटिफाई पर, एप्पल पॉडकास्ट पर, या अपने फेवरेट ऑडियो प्लेटफॉर्म पर. थैंक यू, आई गॉट वाटर. Proof. Thank you for that idea, man. I never thought I could leave it in the middle. Shashwat अभी अपनी tangent पे जा रहा. Ambedkar did not have any degree in history. Shashwat, do you have a degree in history? Because I do. Miles Davis says, Kshitij Dalal, true. Shout out Dr. J. Decepticon Soundwave says, respect for religion has become a code phrase meaning fear of religion. Religion, like all other ideas, deserves criticism, satire, and yes, our fearless disrespect. Salman Rushdie. Yes. Hemant Singhal says, what are your views on Arvind Kejriwal? Don't judge me on that question. I think that he showed potential early on, but right now he's becoming a BJP light. Because if your political posturing has to do with any kind of Hindutva, then I have to assume that when things get hard for you, you will lean into it. You may right now be making the right noises, but if your party has Hindutva as it's as one of the things that it is sympathetic towards, then I will be suspicious towards you. And I don't think he cares about my suspicions, but still, that's my problem with him. Miles Davis says Shashwat Ambedkar had 108 masters, which included anthropology and 6 PhDs. Yeah, Shashwat, समझ सोच समझ के बोला करो. मुंह से क्या क्या निकल जाता है तुम्हारे. Samad says, Shashwat, stop reading WhatsApp forwards. Dr. J says, what about Jordan Peterson? I told you, I mean, I didn't tell you, but last week I posted Jordan Peterson is the Devdutt Patnaik of Christianity. And I think there is one American atheist called Genetically Modified Skeptic who called him the Deepak Chopra of Christianity. And I don't disagree with either definition. Uh, Kshitij says, Shashwat, तेरे को ब्लॉग होना है क्या? Why do you keep repeating stuff after it has been debunked? Kshitij says Param Dongre refer to PWCI Population Weighted Criticism Index. Seriously, look into power structures upon which we most sufficiently elaborated so that. Um, Param Dongre says Ramchandra Guha said we need good right wing intellectuals. Is that possible? Well, if you ever find one, let me know because I don't know any. And by the way, when I say a good right wing intellectual, I mean someone who is willing to criticize the right for the monstrous things that it is enabling in the present government by remaining silent. If you can find someone like that, I will totally agree. Miles says शाश्वत to Hinduism को defend कर रहा है गलत तरीके से. Samad says Zakir Naik is a medical doctor in the same way as Modi is a graduate in entire political science. Dr. J says view on free will. Dr. J, I haven't made up my mind about it honestly. When I do, I'll let you know. रुको मैं भी शाश्वत को टाइम आउट पे डाल रहा हूँ. हाइड उसके बाद टाइम आउट. ये बकवास कर रहा है अभी. Ra says, I think criticizing a religion is different from criticizing its followers. Even if you look at power structures, the Abrahamic ones dominate the global structures. Uh, Criticizing a religion is different from criticizing its followers. Yes, but again, if you criticize, like you have to be wary about, like you put out an idea into public. Think about if that idea can be misused by people who want to hurt marginalized communities. If it can, then put it out with caveats. Say that I don't think this is right. I think these people are doing wrong. However, the people who they are doing this wrong to follow a religion which has certain irrational things in it. Your language has to be measured because otherwise we will, with closed eyes, end up providing weapons to those who are bad people. Um, Kaushal says, oh yes, let's talk about Joe Rogan and JBP. JBP? I don't know who JBP is. Oh, Jordan B. Peterson. Yeah. Joe Rogan का मुझे बात ये करना था कि I posted about his like so Joe Rogan, in case you guys don't know, Joe Rogan is a podcaster and his podcast is exclusively run on Spotify. He platforms a lot of bullshit by way of COVID misinformation. A lot of scientists recently got together and wrote a letter to Spotify asking them to deplatform or at least curb the misinformation on Joe Rogan's podcast. And Joe Rogan has published a video apologizing about it and trying to explain things, but it doesn't really cut it because his podcast is immensely popular, including among young Indian men also. So I got a message from a young doctor who said, "You haven't listened to Joe Rogan's podcast. He's just a skeptical guy," which made me roll my eyes because I know what skeptical guys look like, and Joe Rogan isn't it. He's the guy who took that horse medicine and put himself in the hospital after getting COVID. So this guy told me that ivermectin is not horse medicine; it's actually good medicine. And since I'm not a doctor, I asked the liver doctor on Twitter, Dr. Abby Phillip, and he said ivermectin is bakwas. Joe Rogan is an idiot, and we should not pay any attention to what he says. So I replied to this young medical doctor saying, "Dude, you're a medical doctor. I'm not. I'm not going to say that I know more than you." But I have spoken to other doctors who do say that Joe Rogan spreads misinformation. By the way, even if we don't talk about that point, we have to talk about the fact that he is extremely influential. And when he is a skeptical guy, he can be skeptical about 10,000 things, and I don't give a flying duck. But when he spreads misinformation about COVID, a lot of people will develop vaccine hesitancy. And then herd immunity will suffer. And then it will at some point get to me and my family and you and your family. So जो रोगन के पीछे इतने पागल मत हो कि अपने परिवार के वेलफेयर के बारे में सोचना बंद कर दो, because what he's doing is actually dangerous. He gets away because he's just another white guy, right? And they can do anything and people will not hold them accountable. But It's ridiculous the lengths to which this guy is allowed to go simply because he has a wide podcast following. By the way, I also think that young Indian men need better podcast listening habits. And Joe Rogan, मतलब जो सबसे पॉपुलर है उसको अगर सिर्फ सुनोगे, you will lose out on so many other things. By the way, the Science versus the podcast, the editors of that podcast work for Spotify, and they have written to Spotify saying कि जो रोगन को हटाना पड़ेगा या कुछ करना पड़ेगा उसके बारे में. So obviously मैं अपने मतलब पिछवाड़े से निकाल के तो जो रोगन को क्रिटिसाइज नहीं कर रहा हूँ. That's what I wanted to say. Priyan says, do you believe we can adopt Buddhism as a way of life? I don't know what way of life means. Anyone should be free to follow any religion of their choice. I don't control that. दिव्यांश says, जो रोगन के नशे तो खत्म हो पहले. हाँ. Shashwat bhai, Gandhi or Godse? Just for fun. Good question. Good question. Sudipto says, nah, I think he'll say Gandhi. I'll be surprised if he says Godse because he's being very controlled. There's a history book called Buddhisms. It's a long book, quite good. Okay. विकास सेज रिलीजन्स ओवरऑल आपके नज़र में सिर्फ ह्यूमन इमेजिनेशन का एक रिजल्ट है या कोई साजिश जो प्रॉफिट है उसमें. सो रिलीजन्स का जो ओरिजिन है वो ह्यूमन इमेजिनेशन है, पर जब रिलीजन्स पॉपुलर हो गए, रिलीजन्स का सहारा लेके बहुत लोगों ने क्रिमिनल एक्टिविटीज करने शुरू किए और वो अब भी हो रहा है. समर्थ says, my landlord told me about Joe Rogan. Wow. It would be great to discuss him sometime. Apparently, he's a big name here in the West, and honestly, I have no idea. Yeah, he's a big name. He's perhaps the world's most famous podcaster. Otangelo says, if atheism is true, there is no good or bad. False, Otangelo. Good or bad depends on morality that is agreed upon by consensus in human society. Religion is not the only source of morality. You are coming from an Abrahamic background, I understand, but please, thoda, matlab, have a wider outlook on reality. Priyansh says, do you appreciate Mahabharata as literature? Yes, I do. I love the Mahabharata as literature. Samad says, Otangelo, good or bad is more about morality and ethics rather than religion and God. Dr. J says, what about telling truth? Dr. J, what are you asking? I don't understand. Vimo, moral duties are based on what standard if atheism is true? Atheism is not a claim. So when you say atheism is true, it does not make any sense, first of all. Secondly, moral duties are based on human social consensus. When people come together and live with each other, they come to certain conclusions about how they should live their life. And some of these standards are universal. Like if you steal from your neighbor, it's a bad thing. If you murder your neighbor, it's a bad thing because it breaks the tribe. Human social evolution is the source of the beginning of morality. When tribes came together, they had to create rules so that the tribes would stay together. And that was the origin of morality and ethics as we understand it today. Later on, religions came along and they started claiming that ये सब हमने किया था. Sorry about the Hindi. Later, religions came along and they started claiming that religion is the source of morality. And that is the superstition that you are still suffering from. Priyank says, Otangelo, nope, good or bad is man-made concept, just like religion. Good and bad exist only in humans. Yes. Miles Davis says, Buddha and his Dharma is most authentic book on Buddha ever written. Okay. Oh yeah, wahi naam tha. That's the, uh, that is the book by Ambedkar. Shayan says, but what people want is the only thing that gets you profit, not what they need in the end, and news, TV, media, or businesses. Yes, and therefore we reach the criticism of capitalism. When you let capitalism rule the roost, the rules of profit are the only things that matter, and every decision is made according to them. And that is bad for society. That's what I was getting at. ये डॉक्टर जे का क्या है रे? मैं इसको टाइम आउट कर रहा हूँ. कब से वही चीज़ चिपकाया जा रहा है. विकास सॉरी क्षितिज कहाँ गया? दोनों एथिस्ट थे और दोनों एंटी कास्टिस्ट भी है इसलिए. Priyank Saxena just confirmed my case. No, Tangelo, he did not. Your case is stupid. Kshitij says, linking some of your stuff, we'll do it more. Also, I love how when you started streaming, there was barely enough comments for an hour. Now you have a large backlog. Not calling you out, LOL. No, that's okay. I actually have been streaming on Instagram for more than 2 years. So, आदत है मेरे को. यूट्यूब पे स्टार्ट करने को बहुत टाइम लग गया. When I started on YouTube, if you go back to my first ever live stream, there was only my nephew in the live stream, and he also only came to tell me that Tanmay Bhatt is live, मैं जा रहा हूँ. And I was playing a game by myself for 1 hour. Not 1 hour, less than 1 hour, about 40 minutes. But yeah, that's how this channel started. It was intended to be a gaming channel, but then I realized I'm not much of a gamer, so I should just do what I do on Instagram. And that's why this channel is like this now. And now we are doing interviews. So great growth, I think. This is my fastest growing channel, by the way. It's slow growth, but among all my other channels, this is growing the fastest. Vikas says, Sir, what is your opinion for journalist Ravish Kumar in Godi media era? I think he's doing great work, and I think he's one of the few remaining lights in at least the mainstream media sphere, because बाकी सारे voices तो YouTube पे ही हैं. Uh, that's what. Otangelo says, if there are no binding moral values coming from God, then they are based on personal opinion, which boils down to no moral values at all. They're just made up. Well, I can say the same about God. God is made up. So you don't have any moral values. By the way, everyone who believes in God, are they moral people according to you? No. There are plenty of bad people in prisons. So where does morality go when religious people who believe in God do bad things? Shayan says, news channels are definitely entertainment channels now. Why there is no severe penalty for lying on news with factual evidence source? Because the people, the agencies have been compromised. India in 2022, the biggest problem we have is that our democratic institutions, the institutions which are supposed to take care of our relationship with power, they have been compromised. And I think everyone who supports this is just, their thinking is ass backwards, because they don't realize how much damage they're doing to their own lives and their own families and their own futures. America also went through this because of Christian supremacists taking over power. We are having our turn, and I hope this will pass. Just like America, like the orange fool, he got thrown out. Rick says Joe Rogan promotes vaccine misinformation, but he's a pretty nice guy. If he promotes vaccine misinformation, how is he a pretty nice guy? What are you talking about? Priyank says, Otangelo, of course, good and bad are not universal truths. Good and bad are universal ideas, but the way they manifest in different societies are different. Otangelo is not Indian. He does not understand a lot of things, so kindly be a little gentle on him. Samarth says, I started imagining a flying duck when you said it. Otangelo says, if there is no God, moral values are subjective. If that is so, why should someone behave in a socially acceptable range? Jeffrey Damer. I don't know who this Jeffrey fellow is, but the answer to your question is, if you don't, the police will arrest you. And by the way, certain moral values are inbuilt into human social evolution. As I've already said, human social evolution is uh, an explanation for why humans behave a certain way with each other. Animals don't have it. Humans have it because humans evolved as social animals, and they had to be nice to each other in order to benefit from each other's skills and presence. That's the source of morality and all kinds of ethical behavior. Sundarji says, judgment. I am talking about recent incident of child suicide. BJP taken a video of her confession, then forged the video and released in public by BJP leader. Okay. I haven't read about this, Sundarji. If you want, you can send me a link on Instagram. Soumya says, Sir, was the caste system and discrimination less severe in Odisha historically as compared to other regions of the country? No, it wasn't. Odisha is still a very casteist place. Odisha is very casteist. The casteism does not often translate into murder and violence like in Uttar Pradesh. But I think one of the mistakes we make is to assume that the caste system is about violence. It's not always about violence. It's also about people keeping people trapped in categories that limit their potential in life. There is casteism in academia, and that does not always translate into physical violence, but it is very violent. Today, only on Instagram, I saw a post by someone who said that she was bullied by, not she or he, I don't know what their gender was, but this person was bullied by their classmates, called names, made to do things, given, marked absent in classes for which they were present, and even her ability to attend class was reduced because they were bullied so much they were afraid to go to class. All that is casteism, and all that happens in every state in India, including Odisha, even though it may not always translate into violence, and it still does translate into violence in Odisha also. So, yeah, there is no reason to think that your state is better than other states with respect to casteism. It's a pan India problem. Priyank says, Otangelo, we are not discussing absolute truths. Neither religion or good or bad fall in this category. Atheism too, yes. Otangelo is only going to repeat a few points that he repeats everywhere. This guy is a serial atheist baiter on the internet. Priyank says, Otangelo, atheism is not a claim, but a question to religious people to show evidence for God. Otangelo, again, repetition. If there is no God, then morals are a human convention based on consensus in society. If that is so, nobody can criticize Nazi Germany. Their morals were equally valid, just different. Of course, you can criticize Nazi Germany. Morality ka, sorry, I keep jumping into Hindi. I don't know why I keep jumping into Hindi when it comes to talking to Otangelo. With every Indian, I'm talking in English. So the thing behind morality, the thing behind secular morality is that it is based on well-being. Nazi Germany, the rules that they made for the Jews affected the well-being of Jews and by extension the well-being of Germany itself. Morality's foundation is well-being of people. And if well-being is the foundation of morality, you don't need God to explain anything. It's just a figment of some superstitious imagination. Ra says Buddhism believes in rebirth. Read Dhammapada and other Buddhist texts. Ambedkar refutes that in his interpretation. Okay. Okay. I have Dhammapada and I do agree with you that it does mention that, but Ambedkar interprets it differently. And I have not read Ambedkar's interpretation of it, but the Dhammapada one I have read. Maybe Science Journey can throw more light on this. Maybe I should get him on this channel sometimes. Otangelo says it's always wrong to kill, torture little babies for fun. Ah, your favorite example. Unless you throw babies into the equation, we can't have any conversation with atheists. Therefore, objective moral standards exist. If objective moral standard exists, God exists. Ah, gap. How do you go from objective moral standards to God exists? Since they exist, God exists. You can have objective standards inside subjective reality. When you're playing a game of chess, this is Matt Dillahunty's example, by the way. I'm sure you've heard this before, but nothing penetrates your thick skull. So, Matt Dillahunty's example is that if you're playing a game of chess, chess is not a natural occurrence, right? Chess is a man made game, an artificial game, a game which was made by human beings and is played by human beings. And before playing, human beings agree on a few rules that apply universally. This is the objectivity inside the subjectivity. Yeah, the objectivity inside the subjectivity. So, objectivity does not require a supernatural creator, it simply requires people to agree with each other, which is what I've been saying since the beginning: human social evolution. Tribes coming together and agreeing on a few rules, and therefore that is what ends up being the source of morality. Killing babies for fun is a good example. I hate it, and you're an asshole for bringing it up, but I will address it. Killing babies for fun is not in the interest of anyone, any tribe, any human being, or the welfare of any society. Therefore, it is considered moral wrong in every society. Human beings, if they start killing their neighbors' children, will never be able to build tribes, and if they don't build tribes, they will be alone when the tiger and the bear and the elephant comes. Therefore, it is in human beings' interest to take care of the babies in their neighborhood. It takes a village to raise one, right? Yeah, that's your answer. Kuch aur, if you want to copy paste any other lines, please do so. Hemant says, is Ambedkar's book on Buddha freely available? You should buy it, man. Ambedkar's books I found being published by, what is the publisher? यहाँ से देख नहीं रहा है, but you should buy it. Search for the book on Amazon and you should buy it. Kshitij says, Shashwat, if you're serious, Bhagat Singh was a Marxist revolutionary, so Karl Marx wouldn't be against him. He likes to views ratios is 1:1. Audience appeal works. Chalo, subscribe bhi kar do. Yes, anyone who has not subscribed and hit the bell icon, please do so. It is hard to grow subscriber base on live streaming channels, even though watch time is nice and growing very well, but subscription is hard. So if you would like to subscribe to this channel, please do so. I will really appreciate it. And if you want to like the stream, then that's even better. Otangelo apparently has moved on from the social argument. How is it that blind, non-thinking processes manage to produce creatures that apprehend and respond to abstract moral principles? Could a non-thinking moral realm have possibly seen humanity coming? Who knows? But I wouldn't bet on it. As far as blind, non-thinking processes managing to create creatures that apprehend and respond to abstract moral principles, you are looking at the process from the point of view of something that has happened as a result of the process. Do you get that? Moral principles happened after human beings came into being. You are using moral principles as a lens to look through at the process that created conscious beings. This followed that, and therefore that cannot be judged on the basis of this. Monmon says, better read What is Caste by Ambedkar. It's a paper published in Columbia University in 1916. विकास says, सर क्या इस दुनिया में कुछ भी ऐसा है जिसके पीछे कोई एविडेंस ना हो बट हम उसे मानते हैं एक्सेप्ट रिलीजियस थिंग्स। बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं, छोटी-छोटी चीज़ें हैं, अनइम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ें हैं। इफ़ यू अगर तुम दफ्तर जा रहे हो और रास्ते में कहीं सड़क खुदी हुई है, एग्ज़ाम्पल मैं बार-बार देता रहता हूँ, पर अगर तुम दफ्तर जा रहे हो और सड़क खुदी हुई है और तुम गाड़ी से सिर निकाल के बोलते हो, "अरे! सड़क क्यों ब्लॉक कर रखी है?" एक आदमी आता है, उसने सरकारी यूनिफ़ॉर्म पहनी है, वो कहता है, "हमने खोदी है क्योंकि एक पाइप लीक कर रहा था।" तो तुम जाके इन्वेस्टिगेट नहीं करोगे, क्योंकि तुमको दफ्तर पहुँचना है, तुम निकल जाओगे, एक यू टर्न मान के जाना है और क्या। अगर कोई चीज़ बहुत ज़्यादा गैर ज़रूरी है, तो तुम मान सकते हो, उससे कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता। बट गॉड इज़ एन इम्पोर्टेंट क्लेम बिकॉज़ व्हेन समवन सेज़ गॉड exists or religion is valid, then that's saying a lot about the universe. And so you cannot take this lightly. A lot of people do take this lightly. But if you really are serious about nature and reality, you have to take it lightly and ask for evidence. Kaushal says, commenting on Kejriwal, if people are offered Hindutva light, they will choose Hindutva. Yeah. And my fear is that if a political party chooses to use Hindutva as its crutch, however light it might be, when things get tough, they will lean heavily onto it and then they will become proper BJP. Nobody will become ever proper BJP, by the way, but my fear is that it will become yet another right wing party. Param says their religion, so they are in a sense themselves Hindu phobic. Their religion, what? What are you saying, Param? Param, why are you being like this today? You were okay last week and the week before that. वर यू लाइंग देन और आर यू लाइंग नाउ? ये क्या अचानक ये हिंदू फोबिया कहाँ से शुरू हो गया? इस बारे में हम बात कर चुके हैं। मुनमुन सेज एनी मोर प्लान्स टू कोलैब विद मोर पाकिस्तानी एथिस्ट्स? मुनमुन अभी तो नहीं है, बट गालिब कमाल जी को मैं कभी ना कभी तो लाना चाहूंगा। बट राइट नाउ आई हैव सम अदर थिंग्स ऑन माई प्लेट एंड देयरफॉर आई एम गोइंग टू फोकस ऑन सम इंडियन मैटर्स। अगेन आई रिमाइंड एवरीवन, 1 घंटा तो हो गया है, बट today is Wednesday. This Saturday we are going to have Nakul Shenoy with us. He's a hypnotist and he's here. He's going to talk about this thing that people keep bringing up on the live stream, which is about past life regression therapy. And people say that it proves that reincarnation and rebirth and the afterlife, these are true. And we're going to talk about that. Nakul is a skeptic and an atheist, I think, and he has debunked this stuff before, and he also has practical experience with hypnosis and magic. So I think it'll be an interesting conversation. If you go to the main page of the channel and click on the and go to the upcoming live stream thing, you'll find Nakul's face on a thumbnail, and you can, I think it's called in in the mind of a mind reader. If you click on it, click the reminder button and you'll get notified. That's happening this Saturday. And next Wednesday, 7 days from now, we are going to talk with Sumit Kumar, the cartoonist behind the studio Bucker Max. And he's also going to talk about his time at Shark Tank. Shubh says, I have written a book, My Case Against Religious Dogma, in which I have criticized Hinduism. You can buy it on Amazon. It's an ebook. Please send me the link. I'll try it. Miles says, Baba Saheb, don't choose Marxism because this concept does not suit somehow in a divided country by racism and caste based discrimination. Otherwise, he loved communism. Yeah. He was of the view that Marxism is not going to be the solution for India's problems because almost every single social system in India is guided by caste consciousness. Sagar says, Jordan Peterson's climate change rant was he gets because of his reputation, he gets away with so much crap, so much utter crap that if anyone else said it, they'll be laughed off stage. माइल्स डेविस है, सॉरी सर, मैंने बहुत सारे कमेंट कर दिए। वो एक शाश्वत नाम का भक्त आया था आपका अपना लॉ, हाँ उसको मैंने बहुत पहले से टाइम आउट कर दिया रे। एक्स भीमता आदिवासी says, why don't you convert to Buddhism like Ambedkar did? I don't need a religion. I'm an atheist. Did you not see that? Hemant says, we logical person like Prashant Bhushan is against COVID vaccine. Yeah, so everyone has a dark spot, and that's Prashant Bhushan's. Just because Prashant Bhushan is against COVID vaccine doesn't mean COVID vaccines don't work. Vaccines work. If you are not vaccinated yet, please do get vaccinated because you are dramatically reducing the risk of hospitalization and fatality, not only for yourself, not only for your family, but for everyone. You're adding to the resistance that all of us are building in the form of herd immunity. uh, Kaushal says, Vimolai, the person we talked about in the start of the video, is here already. What? Who? I didn't know you were so emotional about Ambedkar, as if he was an infallible being. अच्छा, ये एक और नौटंकी है, इसको टाइम आउट में डाल रहा हूँ. विकास says, हाय अनुमित्रा. माइल्स डेविस says, सर ये नाम चेंज करके आया गोडसे का बच्चा. Shayan says evolution taught us morality. People who worked together survived and got to pass their genes. This is why murder is wrong. Yeah, it's not rocket science. मतलब हर चीज में गॉड को ठूंसना क्यों जरूरी होता है इनके लिए पता नहीं. Right. So 1 घंटा हो गया. I'm gonna take a look at. Kshitij says Joe Rogan is a white version of beer biceps. Yes, but that's exactly what I was thinking the other day. Beer biceps without hair. Hair biceps. I think no. Yeah, hair biceps. सॉरी फर्स्ट टाइम कमेंट कर रहा हूँ पर थोड़ा ज़्यादा नहीं नहीं दिस इज अ परफेक्टली गुड कंपैरिजन थैंक यू फॉर डूइंग इट शायन says evolution taught us morality people okay already heard that Divyan says Jaggi would have so many more followers if his name was simply Glad Guru instead of Sad Guru. I saw your interview with Harris on a similar vein. Do you worry that some of the criticisms of Hinduism he could be here could be used to attack Hindu minorities in neighboring nations? I am for criticizing, by the way. Yes, I do, and thank you for bringing this up. Every time we criticize something, we run the risk that our criticism is going to be misused to attack someone without power in another power structure, which is why the work of Haris Sultan is important. He is a Pakistani atheist who criticizes the dominant strain of religion in his country. I am an Indian atheist. It is my job to criticize the dominant strain of religion in my country. Soumya says, Sir, do you agree that almost the entire Odia culture is based upon the cult of Jagannath? Yes. Well, not entire, but you can't generalize about an entire culture based on one thing. But yeah, it is. And by the way, Jagannath is a tribal deity. He was assimilated into Hinduism uh, quite late in the process. And he had been worshipped by tribals uh, of this region for thousands of years before that. Ra says thousands or hundreds, I'm not sure, but for a long time. Ra says asked before because the discussion with Harris explored the topic of how this rhetoric could be used by Hindutva nationalists. Do you worry falling into the same trap? As long as I'm criticizing the most powerful religion in my country, no. But yeah, if this criticism is used to demonize uh, marginalized communities like Hindus in Pakistan, then definitely I do fear about it. And that's why the work of Haris is important because he has the same priorities as someone like I do. He has on his show repeatedly said that persecution of Christians in Pakistan is a no-no. Just as I here say that persecution of Muslims in India by Hindutva quarters is a no-no. Sagar says Nietzsche on the genealogy of values is a great dissection of how morality originated in a Western context. Philosophy. Anurag says, hey, Vimoz, second time on your live stream. Thank you, Anurag Kumar, for coming. Again, I can't read any more comments, guys. ज़्यादा time नहीं है. 1 घंटा 7 मिनट हो गया है. Just read some stuff. I can't answer anymore. I don't think we can have universal morals and to achieve social, economic, cultural emancipation of all of humanity against universal, not human. Okay. Because sir, जब Muslims कहते हैं कि God is one and they are wrong those are wrong who worship multiple gods. सो वो किस वजह से मल्टीपल गॉड्स को रॉन्ग और एक गॉड कॉन्सेप्ट को सही कहते हैं? सबको अपना धर्म प्यारा होता है और क्या? सबको अपना धर्म प्यारा होता है। दुनिया भर की आई मेंशन्ड दिस सम टाइम अगो, रिलिजियस इर्रेशनैलिटी इज़ नॉट religious irrationality is doubly dangerous than irrationality in general because normal irrationality के साथ डील करने का तरीका हमारे पास है। अगर कोई तुमको ठगने आता है और कोई रैशनल चीज़ कहता है तो तुम्हारे दिमाग में आ जाएगा। बट अगर वही आदमी गेरुए वस्त्र पहन के आता है, कुछ धार्मिक डायलॉग बोलता है तो तुम फँस जाओगे। बिकॉज़ रिलिजन मेक्स अस वल्नरेबल टू irrationality because we have already subscribed to certain fundamental superstitions that religion imposes on us when we were children. So that is the problem, and that is why we should be doubly careful about having a soft corner towards our religion because as long as we have it, we are going to swallow a lot of bullshit, even as we are suspicious of other religions. Samad says, Justin, babies, puppies, and kittens have become the biggest enemies of atheists. Courtesy of विकास says, अनुमित्रा, बुद्धिज्म को मैं सिर्फ बाकी रिलीजन के कंपेयर में ज़्यादा लिबरल और रैशनल मानता हूँ, बट नॉट मोर देन साइंस. एंशियंट ह्यूमंस के लिए बुद्धिज्म वैसा ही था जैसा हमारे लिए साइंस. ओके. Is it one's responsibility to have children? No, I don't think so. Samad says Otangelo needs to understand the difference between causation and correlation. Yeah, he needs to understand a lot of stuff, but yeah, this is definitely on the list. Sentientism says Buddhism is completely irrational, outdated. Ajivika philosophy is the most rational ancient philosophy. Yeah, okay, sir. If you say so. अपने धर्म की प्रशंसा करते हुए लोगों को कितना मजा आता है. Abhinav says, "Hi Vimo, what are your views on decolonization of Indian minds? I do think that India needs it, but the fact is that many decolonizers stuff conservatism with decolonial arguments. I agree. I agree. And they use it for agendas." Ra says, "Thanks for taking my questions, Vimo. I disagree with some stands of yours, but I think you make intelligent arguments a lot of the times, especially across atheism. And as a theist, I find it interesting." You're most welcome, Ra. We can disagree and still have talks. That's okay. Um, Sentientism says Buddha was against Charvak, Ajivika, according to Ashoka Vandana, Buddhism spread through sword. Buddha was against Charvaka. I don't give a shit who was against Charvaka. The Charvaks are gone. Kshitej says Otangelo is trolling so much you could make an entire atheist argument playlist just by clips refuting him. Yeah, that tendency, that temptation is strong, but I don't want to give this guy more of a platform. परम डोंगरे से सर मेरा पहले वाला कमेंट पढ़ा नहीं वो हिंदूफोबिक मैं मेरे फ्रेंड्स को बोल रहा था केजरीवाल वाले कमेंट के पहले था ओ ओके 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 आई एम सॉरी इफ आई मिसअंडरस्टूड यू बट थोड़ा कॉन्टेक्स्ट दिया करो ना मैं इतने सारे कमेंट पढ़ता हूँ ना मैं भूल जाता हूँ कि किसने क्या बोला था सो अगर तुम सिर्फ 4 वर्ड लिखोगे मैं अज्यूम कर लूंगा कि वो तुम्हारा ओपिनियन है कोटेशन मार्क्स यूज करो बोलो किसने बोला बोलो कि ये तुम्हारा व्यू नहीं है साफ साफ लिखा करो Abhinav says, Vimo, as you had asked me, I watched the V.S. Ramachandra episode of Rajiv Malhotra. Rajiv Malhotra was having a hard time talking to, yeah. And V.S. Ramachandra was having a hard time listening to him. He was going completely off his rocker. क्या बकवास कर रहा था. Sir, do you think when humans will start journey to other planets or to the stars, they would be only scientists and atheists? No, no, not necessarily. There is plenty of science. See, I have said this before, but I've said this before, but religion is not actually going to leave us anytime soon because it's a fundamental part of how humans have evolved socially. In the really far future, when you are a galactic empire, maybe we won't have the same religions that we have right now, but as long as we are descendants of apes, we are still going to rely on some amount of irrationality in our life. Someone says, I got my booster dose yesterday, so overslept this morning. That's why I missed my class. Ah, okay. Jagannath was later assimilated into Marvel Comics as Juggernaut. uh, Indra, Brahma, Ram, Krishna was assimilated into Buddhism like Shintoism and Confucianism. Well, that's debatable because as far as linguistic evidence goes, Buddhism has an older history than Hinduism does. Right. Gulzar Elia says Hindutva have become active right now. Do you think it will slow down after election? No, because the source of Hinduism is not one political party. It's Indian society itself. Right. So I'm going to end the live stream now. 1 घंटा 12 minute हुआ. Thank you for all the people who came. If you have not liked the stream, please do like the stream. I'll remind you of a few things. If you like my work and if you want to support it financially, you can do so at patreon.com/Vimo by pledging a monthly amount or an annual amount. If you only want to make a one-time donation, you can do so by visiting vimo.stackme, stck.me, vimo.stck.me. New URL. I am having a hard time pronouncing it, but you can make a one-time donation here. If you want to listen to my podcast, you can do so at vimo.in. And if you want book recommendations, which everyone always does, you can find those at amazon.in/shop/Vimo. And with that, I shall take your leave. I'll remind you once more that in a few days, we are going to have Nakul Shenoy, the magician and hypnotist, here with us on the live stream. We are going to talk about past life regression therapy. Until then, I will take your leave. Thank you for joining.